Pfeiffer Stone Company had to shut down completely in December to replace the cutting machinery burned out by the dense limestone.
Timing's everything in politics. The 1905 legislature was still meeting at the old State House, and Davis uttered the remark, we hardly have enough capital to even create a suspicion.
Well, what that meant is they basically had the outside walls of the first floor, nothing in between, and they had used almost 2/3 of the money that they had appropriated to build the building.
$335,000 had been spent on constructing the new Capitol, yet there wasn't a Capitol to hold sessions or do anything in. The budget was down to only $250,000 remaining. And Davis chastised the legislature for not listening to him and for ignoring what he had warned them.
There were more troubles to come by the adjournment of the 1905 legislature.
In 1905, 4 senators, 2 representatives, and 2 lobbyists were all indicted for either receiving or giving bribes in connection with appropriation bills for the state capitol.
The thing that really caught everybody's attention there is that the prosecuting attorney was determined that he would find out if the accusation was true or false. And of course he had to require some people to be, I understand, put under arrest even to keep them there doing his investigation.
And these scandals of 1905 affected the public careers of many men because of the subsequent acquittals and trials and convictions. So 1905 was a very bad year for the state capitol.
Miraculously, construction of the Capitol continued, and by 1906, the second story was complete. The east front now stood 3 stories tall. In June 1906, the Commission ordered the first in a series of tests on the floors with a group of engineers and the press in attendance. The law library was filled with brick 2.5 feet tall, with 57 workmen standing on top. Gauges registered a failure the width of a pencil mark and no more. Examiners were amazed. Despite several positive tests, the legislature focused on the minor negatives and refused to appropriate new money. The earlier rejected contractor and former Capitol Commission member George Donaghy sensed an opportunity. He decided to take charge of the Capitol project through election to public office. In September 1907, the carpenter from Conway entered the governor's race and promised to discharge the whole conniving pack, architect, contractor, and commission alike. He won and was ready to go to war for what he thought was right. From 1907 to 1909, legislative wrangling with the contractor brought construction to another standstill. Now the legal question of who owned the unfinished building rose to the forefront. The contractor claimed legal dibs, but a newly appointed Capitol Commission sent notice that it intended to take possession of the building and start dismantling the interior.
Caldwell and Drake, the original contractors for the Capitol building, thought they were being unfairly construction. So they tried to keep the Capitol Commission out so they couldn't come in and check on them. So they nailed the doors shut to the Capitol building. This went back and forth for about 3 days.
This time they were so angry about it, Donaghy and the State Capitol Commission, that they employ armed guards and build a fence around the Capitol grounds and make sure you can't get in unless you have a pass.
And what's more, he calls the state militia into camp up in North Little Rock, allegedly for rifle practice, but the implication is, of course, that, well, you know, if there's some more trouble around the Capitol, the militia will be ready to defend the state's property. I don't think anybody lost the hint.
Finally, they have full physical control of the state capitol, but it sounds almost like Banana Republic, to use a phrase.
1910 was an election year, and Governor Donaghy's critics rallied behind his opponent. Campaigning with an intensity fueled by his consuming desire to complete the Capitol, Donaghy won by a wide margin. The Capitol was far enough along in 1911 that the legislature convened in the building with temporary lights and heating. Even meeting in the unfinished building was not enough to persuade the legislature to pass Donaghy's request for another $500,000 for furniture, doors, elevators, lighting, and landscaping. This was a great loss for Donaghy, made final by his defeat the next year in his bid for a third term as governor by Congressman Joe T. Robinson. Donaghy was bitter that the Capitol project would again be left to the uncertain fortune of politics. The 1913 legislature finally appropriated the nearly $500,000 needed to complete the project. By December 31, 1914, the State Capitol Commission's final construction expense was submitted. The total cost of the project was $2,205,779.42. After 16 years, 2 architects, 2 contractors, 6 elected governors, and 4 Capitol commissions, the Arkansas State Capitol was finally complete.
You know, too often we forget, those of us who work in the state capitol, we forget how the people around the state feel. I can recall whenever I was first appointed to an office, and the first time I walked in the governor's office, I mean, I couldn't listen to what the governor was saying because I was looking around. I was in awe and impressed as well, as people should be. It's a great experience, and people come in and they sit in the gallery and watch the Senate in session or the House in session, and it's a great learning experience. I think everyone throughout the state, especially our young people, need to come to the state capitol. They need to come and visit. They need to talk and take a tour. They need to visit with the office holders and find out what they do. It's very important that they understand the history of this state and respect the state capitol for what it is.